A hush. Hands hover over a warm cup. The mind flicks to a to-do list it does not need. You feel restless, though nothing is wrong. This is common. Not failure. Not an illness. Think of it as a quiet alarm, an old circuit still listening for threats and opportunities. It tugs attention in small, patient ways. What is it asking for? Not a fix. A question. A closer look.
Listen. Restlessness comes in pieces. First, the body, a low hum in the chest, shoulders tilted toward action, breath a touch quick. Then attention, tiny alarms, a remembered message, a stray image of tomorrow. It prefers possibility to presence. And then the loops, thoughts circling the same small worry until they feel larger than they are. Each element nudges the next. None of it is moral failing. It's pattern. Name the parts and you can follow the trail. What if the next step is simply noticing, without rushing to fix?
Attention is a gardener, not a judge. It tends what it notices. A cue, a ping, a passing worry, a silvery fear, provokes a glance. The glance brings a small reward, certainty, distraction, relief. Repeat enough times and a narrow path forms in the mind. Habits crystallize. The brain prefers worn routes. Novelty costs energy. So restlessness doubles as training. We teach attention where to go. That means it can be taught again. Not by force. By tiny, patient alternatives. A quieter cue. A different answer. What would a kinder route look like?
It begins with tiny invitations. A breath. Feeling the cup's warmth. Naming one thought and letting it go. A tiny sequence, repeated, notice, pause, choose. Not punishment. Not willpower. A predictable shape that the body can learn. The reward is subtle, less tightness, a clearer edge to the moment. Over days the new path deepens. It doesn't erase the old one. It simply becomes available. One small different answer. Again. And then, quietly, see what wants to come next. Now, invite curiosity. Treat attention as something to test, not fix. Start small. Take 30 seconds to listen, one sound, no story. Hold a cup and name one sensation. Walk 5 steps and count each footfall. When the mind drifts, note it simply, there, and return without scolding. Keep the stakes low. Record nothing. Judge nothing. These are experiments, not remedies. Watch for patterns. Which moments shorten the tightness? Which make it longer? Notice the body's reply. A tiny habit of investigation teaches the nervous system a different grammar. It says, we can ask, observe, adjust. Over time, the questions matter more than the answers. Try one now. See what comes back. Now, lean in. Not to fix. Just to meet. there is often a small, persistent voice beneath the churn. Call it worry, or the shadow, or the part that's trying to protect you. Ask one gentle question: what do you need right now? Place a hand where the feeling lives. Name it. Softly. Listen for the answer without rushing to repair. Often the reply is practical. Warmth. Time. A promise. Sometimes it is only a story, repeated because it once helped. Give it a role. Thank it for trying. Then ask it to wait while you choose. This is not capitulation. It is conversation. Integration, not exile. Try it for a minute. No demands. No conclusions. Notice what eases. Notice what stays. Let the inquiry be enough, and let the rest be curious.
Now move from fixing to staying. Not retreating into tactics. Not escalating into control. Imagine uncertainty as a companion at the kitchen table. You don't need to solve its stories. You can offer a cup. Small gestures change the tone. A steady breath. A factual word. Try saying, quietly, "I'm here." Or, "I don't have the answer." Notice how your body responds when you stop negotiating with the noise. Sometimes the urge to act softens. Sometimes it doesn't. Both are information. This is practice in relationship, patient, imperfect, repeatable. Over time, the posture shifts. Urgency thins. Curiosity deepens. You begin to recognize the difference between a demand and a request. Leave a pause. Listen to what the companion does next.
Notice how simple cues can change the tone. A lamp turned on instead of bright overhead light. A kettle set to boil. Shoes by the door. A promise to wash one plate. These are not performances. They are signals. They tell the body, quietly, this hour has a shape. Rituals ask less of you than routines. They are forgiving gestures that repeat. Make them sensory. Taste. Texture. Sound. Let them be awkward at first. Let them fail. Over months they accumulate. They slow the circulation of urgent thoughts. They reroute attention from demand to presence. You'll notice gaps. That's normal. Return. Try another small shape. And then another. See what the companion does next. Set a 60-second pause. No phone. No list. Sit. Breathe. Name 3 sounds you hear. Let them be ordinary. Notice where the urge to move begins. Name it curiosity, not critique. Open a page and write one line. What wanted you were trying to soothe? One sentence. No solution. Later, when a thought tugs you, delay 2 minutes before acting. See if it leaves. Try tasting a cup of tea as if for the first time. Slow it down until the edges sharpen.
Treat each as an experiment. Record what changed. Small data, kindly observed. Some will do nothing. Some will surprise you. And sometimes, quietly, the world will tilt, just enough to be interesting.
You gathered small data. That matters. Attention is not a moral test. It's a learning system. It carves grooves with repetition like a path worn through grass. Each glance, each click gives a tiny reward. A relief. A novelty. A small lift. Those micro rewards pull the gaze again. Slowly, habit forms. Often what wins our attention is what is easiest to access, not what matters most. This is quietly good news. Habits are learned. They can be learned differently. The experiment you practiced is the microscope. Use it to map the pulls. Notice the first 3 things your mind reaches for in the next pause. Ask, without blame, what did I just earn? Stay curious. The map will show where to reroute the path.
Once you notice the pulse, another actor steps forward, the inner narrator. A quiet voice that names you. I'm the responsible one. I'm behind. Those lines do more than describe. They arrange attention. They make some cues feel urgent. A ping becomes proof. A task list becomes a tribunal. Often restlessness isn't only about something wrong. It's about who we think we must be. When identity feels thin or threatened, attention turns to surveillance. You scan for reassurance. You seek proof you still fit your story. The search feels useful. It also keeps you awake.
Try noticing the claim beneath the pull. What story asked for proof just now? Listen without fixing. Sometimes the question matters more than the answer. Names help. Not to fix you, but to give shape. Jung called them archetypes. We can call them the critic, the guardian, the seeker.
Imagine a house of voices. One room holds the cautious watcher. Another hums with restless ambition. They're not literal. They're patterns, old energies with preferred scripts. When you name a figure, it stops being the whole of you. It becomes a guest. It can be invited to sit. Or shown the door. The shadow isn't a villain. It's a store of disowned life, anger, grief, hunger, that seeks a channel. Left unnamed, it becomes a low hum behind everything. Named, it can be met.
Try a small experiment. Notice which room just brightened. Which voice leaned in. No need to act. Just listen. Notice what waits. If the shadow stores energy, meaning gives it a shape. Viktor Frankl noticed this. Meaning, even tiny, steadies attention like a hearth steadies a room. Not distant trophies. Not vague futures. Small meanings, making tea with care, answering one honest message, planting a seed, offer immediate reasons for the body to settle. They are proximal anchors. They ask for presence, not performance. When attention has a nearby purpose, the low hum softens. The restless voice leans less on alarm and more on tending. That doesn't erase worry. It simply offers another current to follow.
So listen for small invitations. Notice what feels like a small promise you can keep. A quiet ritual. A brief kindness. Which one would ask you to stay here, now? And still, the world beyond those small meanings hums. A phone pulses. Tabs multiply. Calendars fill with shallow urgencies. These are not enemies. They are a scaffolding, built for speed, not rest. It trains attention the way a treadmill trains legs, constant motion, little depth. The glow rewards a glance. The scroll promises completion but delivers fragments. Comparison slips in quietly, dressed as information. Busy work masquerades as progress. Over time, the nervous system learns to expect interruption. Quiet becomes unfamiliar. Calm feels like a gap to be filled.
There is a soft remedy here, not grand resistance, but small changes to the frame. More friction where frenzy lives. More windows that close. More margins that breathe. What would the day feel like with scaffolding designed to hold you, rather than pull you apart? There is another kind of architecture. Quiet, low key. Made of repeated, small gestures. A kettle boiled the same way each afternoon. Keys placed on a table with one deliberate motion. A coat hung on the same peg. A journal opened, pen left uncapped. These are not schedules so much as cues. They teach the body what to expect. They shorten the distance between intention and experience. Rituals ask less of will and more of habit. They create predictable pockets in a noisy day. Not grand ceremonies, simple sequences that say, this moment belongs here.
If the world pushes for speed, rituals invite steadiness. Try one. Keep it small. Notice what settles. And then, quietly, see what attention chooses next. Now, move from ritual to experiment. Small, low-stakes tests. Not to fix yourself, but to gather data. Pause 30 seconds before you check your phone. Count 3 slow breaths before answering an email. Sit and name 3 sounds in the room, without story. Write 1 line about how your body feels, no advice, just note. Do this for days. Observe, quietly. Notice what pulls you back. Notice what eases. No pressure to succeed. No need for big changes. These are tiny invitations to relearn attention. They teach curiosity over urgency. And sometimes, in that gentle curiosity, the restlessness shifts.
Now, having tried small experiments, turn inward. Notice the shape of that recurring worry. Not as an enemy, as a messenger, as a part with a simple request. Ask it one quiet question. What are you afraid of losing? What do you want me to notice? Listen without correcting. No argument. No debate. Just attention.
The shadow is often displaced energy, old urgencies, unmet needs, habits looking for resolution. When you meet them gently, they lose their need to shout. They change tone. They shrink. Or they show a piece of truth you can hold. Try a brief ritual. Name the feeling. Offer it a sentence. I hear you. I'm not leaving. Wait. Breathe. See what answers, if any, come back.
Don't rush to fix it. Stay nearby. Let the worried part speak as if it were a tired child at twilight. Short sentences. Small requests. Listen for the need behind the noise. Safety. Order. Recognition. A place to set down something heavy. You don't have to eradicate the feeling. You can offer it a seat.
Make a modest promise. Not grand vows, just one calm thing you will do when the worry arrives. Check the calendar. Breathe. Watch the light for 2 minutes. Name what you will return to. Notice how the tone changes when needs are met, even a little. The energy loses its edge. It becomes less urgent, more human.
Stay with that. See how far the edges soften. Then, quietly, ask, what wants to be done next? Try one small test. Not to fix the feeling. To learn its shape. Set a timer for 2 minutes. Watch the steam rise from your cup. Feel the weight of your hands. Name one thought, then let it go. Or close every tab but one. Leave the rest for later. Notice what changes. The breath. The pitch of thought. The tone of that worried part. No conclusions. Just data. Do it again tomorrow. Vary the test. A 1-minute walk without a phone. Listening to a single sound until it loses its urgency. Small repetitions build a rhythm. They teach attention what to expect. Notice too how curiosity feels different from command. One is soft. One is sharp. If you stay long enough, patterns appear. Gentle invitations, small experiments. What would you try next? After a few quiet tests, listen for the voice that fills the gaps. Not the facts. The narrator. Short, private sentences. A tone. It says, do more. Be safe. Prove you're enough. Notice how that claim narrows attention. It points the mind toward evidence, tasks, errors, imagined futures. It frames harmless moments as risks. It inflames small doubts until they feel urgent. This voice is not a judge. It's a caretaker with an old rule. sometimes fierce, sometimes pleading. Its job is identity, keeping a story intact. You can observe it without arguing. Name its tone. Sit with its request. Not to fix it, to learn its grammar. And then, quietly, what does it want now? Sometimes the voice sounds older than your schedule, older than the room you sit in. It carries a shape borrowed from stories. A guardian, a trickster, a prosecutor. Names that feel larger than you. Jung calls them archetypes, not mystical facts. Useful metaphors. They explain why a small worry behaves like a commander, or why a petty irritation feels mythic. Think of the mind as a house. Some rooms are bright, some are closed. Energy moves in corridors you rarely enter. When it can't find a doorway, it bangs at the door. Restlessness is often that knocking. You can listen. Notice the costume, the accent, the repeated themes. Name the actor. Give it a seat. And then ask, without fixing, what it really wants.
Those actors, guardian, trickster, prosecutor, are often searching for meaning. Not the grand kind. The small, immediate kind. Viktor Frankl noticed that meaning steadies attention. A tiny purpose shifts the nervous system. Boiling water because someone will drink it. Putting a coat by the door. Answering a short question with full presence. Rituals like these give the mind a task that is kind and clear. They turn restless knocking into a gentle work. Meaning here is practical. It is proximate. It does not erase anxiety. It organizes it. So listen to the urge. Ask, what small thing could I do that would answer it? Try it once. See who sits down afterwards. And then notice how the house changes, even a little.
Outside those small rituals, there are quieter engines shaping our attention. A phone that hums like a distant mosquito. An inbox that never quite empties. Calendars that stack like leaning books. Platforms that reward the quick spark clicks, likes, the tiny rush of being seen. They do not scream. They nudge. They train vigilance into a background hum. Busy work becomes a false safety. Comparison turns into a low-grade alarm. None of this means you are failing. It means the world around you has been built to keep you alert. These are structural cues. They pull energy little by little. Not evil. Not neutral either. Notice them. Name one. And then imagine the room without that hum, just for a moment. In that imagined quiet, small forms begin to matter. A kettle lifted. The slow circle of a spoon. A cloth smoothed over a table. Not tasks. Cues. They are tiny promises the body learns to trust. One breath before you answer. One chair you return to. A deliberate crossing of the threshold. Rituals ask less of your will and more of your senses. They create a predictable architecture where attention can rest. Not rigid schedules. Gentle frames. Repeatable entrances into calm. Over time, the nervous system recognizes the pattern. It lowers its guard. Energy that used to scatter finds a route. You do not fix the world. You make a small room inside it. What one small sequence would feel like an invitation if you tried it tomorrow?
Begin with one small experiment. 2 minutes of listening, to the kettle, to the street, to the space between breaths. A single task for 10 minutes. A rule: no devices on the table. When the mind slips, name it softly, thinking. Note what pulls you. No shame. No score. Treat it like a field notebook. Collect clues. Alter one cue in your environment. Move the phone to another room. Close a curtain. Light the lamp you only use for reading. See how the body answers. Keep it tiny on purpose. The point is not mastery. It is gentle feedback. Repeat. Watch which experiments make the nervous system loosen. Which ones convince the hand to lower. Which ones do nothing at all. Then, do another.
Now turn inward. Not to fix. Not to argue. But to listen. When a worry returns, imagine it as a small room inside you. Step closer. What sound does it make? What temperature? What does it want? A plan, a promise, a pause? Ask simply. Name it. Here is the worrying part. Let it sit. No need to silence it. Presence changes tone. Validation is not approval. It is space.
Often the energy behind restlessness is a needy guardian. It wants safety, or meaning, or proof you exist. Meet that need lightly. Offer a fact. Offer a ritual. Offer a later time to solve it.
Integration does not drain the feeling. It draws it into a conversation. And then you notice the shadow loosen. What might it say next? If you keep listening, if you keep sitting with that small room, the voice inside often changes tone. It may stop demanding and begin asking. A plan. A pause. Permission. Presence. You don't have to solve it. You can translate it. Name the need. Safety. Meaning. Proof that you exist. Give it shape. A timed promise. A line in a notebook. A quiet ritual, washing a cup, lighting a lamp, closing the door for 15 minutes. These are small containers. They let restless energy settle into form.
This is diplomacy, not surrender. Acknowledgement does something the mind often resists: it redirects force into conversation. Sometimes the room opens. Sometimes it rearranges the furniture. Sometimes it locks again. Listen. Stay curious. See what changes next. Once you give the restlessness a shape, a quieter process begins. Attention is not neutral. It learns. It notices what pays off. A beep. A partial answer. A small relief. Cue. Shift. Reward. Repetition carves a groove. Your eyes flick to the screen because, once, looking helped. Your mind loops to the list because checking felt like control. These are not failures. They are learned habits: neat, efficient, stubborn. They also have momentum. The more you follow them, the easier they become. So the work is simple and slow. Notice the cue. Stay with the movement for a breath. Watch the tiny reward arrive. And then ask, without force, what else might attention do now? There is another player here. A quieter voice. The inner narrator. It names you. It presses roles into your day: productive, safe, enough. Those names are small contracts. They steer attention like a compass. You check the inbox not only for work. You check to prove you exist as the worker. You scroll the feed not only for news. You scroll to reassure the part that fears being left behind. This narrator is not an enemy. It is old and earnest. It wants continuity. It wants proof. So restlessness often sounds like reassurance seeking. A loop disguised as urgency. Listen to its cadence. Notice which identity it invokes. Hold that up softly. No debate. Just recognition. What story is it trying to keep alive, and what happens if you answer it differently? There is another language for this urge. Young named parts of the psyche: archetype, shadow. Words to point, not to pin down. They arrive as moods, as repeated gestures. The caregiver. The exile. The restless scout that never sleeps. Sometimes restlessness is simply energy out of form, an archetype pacing in the attic of your attention. It wants movement. It wants a scene.
Naming it eases the hunt. A shadow felt is less stealthy. A pattern seen is easier to meet. Listen for the images that return. The roles that keep pulling focus. Not to judge. Not to fix. Just to recognize. What changes if you ask that current to sit at the edge of the room, to speak for a moment, to be heard, then, quietly, to rest?
If a part has spoken, it needs something to do with its voice. Viktor Frankl noticed that meaning need not be grand. It can be the ritual of making tea. The small task tended until it becomes proof you exist. These tiny anchors pull attention away from vague alarm. They offer a nearby why. Not to fix the whole life. Just to steady the nervous system for a moment. Light a lamp. Water the plant. Write one line and stop. See what steadies. See what wants another small promise. What small meaning might hold you here, now? If small rituals steady attention, other things quietly unsteady it. Phones, pings, endless lists, they pull in short bursts. A headline rewards. A notification alarms. Your focus rehearses readiness. It becomes normal to live between interruptions. These are not moral failures. They are systems tuned to your muscles of attention. They teach vigilance, and they teach distraction. You can notice them without shame. Try removing one scaffold for an afternoon. See what the body does. See what the mind remembers to do on its own.
After removing a scaffold, the room can feel oddly large. A simple sequence offers a different kind of steadiness. Pouring hot water. Folding a towel. Closing a window. Small, embodied cues, sound, weight, warmth, teach the nervous system what safe can mean. They aren't tasks to be completed. They are invitations. Repeated, they become legible to attention. Over time, the sequence opens a door. You step through without fixing everything. You arrive. Then you notice what follows.
You settle. The room holds you. Then small things arrive, a stray obligation, a thin worry, a story that wants to keep moving. You don't chase them. Notice their texture instead. One sound. The warmth on your skin. The shape of an exhale. Let attention stay with one small thing for a single minute. Not to fix the mind. To map it. Each tiny experiment shows where attention prefers to rest and where it doesn't. There is no grand result. Only data. Only atmosphere. What happens if you keep listening?
You've been listening. Patterns begin to appear. A thought returns at the porch light. Your chest tightens at silence. Attention keeps rehearsing the same doorway. It's not failure. It's habit. A habit shaped by usefulness, by safety seeking, by rehearsed promise. Naming the pattern is itself an act of gentle clarity. It doesn't fix everything. It simply offers a place to begin. Try meeting it like a neighbor. Small questions. Small responses. No verdict. See what soft change that invites. What will that neighbor ask for next?
Attention is not a judge. It's a gardener. It tends what is tended. Each glance, each small relief, lays down a furrow. Repetition deepens it. Surprise widens it. Rewards, even tiny ones, teach it where to rest. So the mind learns routes. It prefers worn paths. Habits are grooves of ease. They are efficient, not moral. That means change is possible. But subtle. Not by force. By tending different seeds. By offering other small rewards. Try noticing what light you turn on, and why. Watch the path bend. What would you let it learn next?
If attention learns routes, identity draws the map. A small voice lives in the chest. It names you. I am useful. I am behind. I must fix this. Those names cue the mind. They make certain things bright and other things dim. So restlessness is not random. It's the narrator checking its script. Seeking proof. Asking for reassurance in quiet, repeated ways. There is tenderness in that tug. Also demand. You can listen to the voice as a neighbor, not a judge. Hear what it insists on seeing. And notice, without rushing, how its questions change when you answer differently.
There are older shapes under that small narrator. Call them archetypes if you like: the caregiver, the critic, the explorer. Call the rest what it is: a shadow with wants. Names are not diagnoses. They are doorways. When you name the voice, it stops needing to be clever. Displaced energy loses its stealth. Restlessness becomes material. A river that can be guided, not just feared. You begin to see patterns instead of enemies. And then a quiet question opens: if this tug had a role to play, what might it ask you to build? Perhaps the tug asks for something to hold. Not a grand plan. A small, repeated shape. Frankl observed that meaning steadies attention. A purpose close at hand soothes the nervous system more than a distant metric. A cup rinsed. A note sent. A patch of earth turned with your hands. The act itself is reply and ritual. It lets attention settle into something true and proximate. Over time, these small meanings gather into a quiet architecture. Imagine one tiny thing that tug might be asking you to build. And notice what answering would do.
Still, those small rituals live inside a wider current. A phone that hums like a distant weather vane. Badges that glow. tabs that never close. Meetings scheduled to fill the gaps. An economy that prizes speed over pause. These structures nudge attention toward tiny rewards. They keep the body lightly alarmed. Not because you're weak, because the world is designed that way. You can notice them. Name one. Maybe silence a badge. Close a tab. Let a meeting lapse. See how the nervous system answers. And then, quietly, ask what settles next.
Rituals don't fix everything. They offer a predictable shape. A kettle. The sound of water moving. The deliberate pause while the cup warms. Putting keys in the same bowl. Closing a door with attention. Washing hands like a small reset. These are not rules. They are signals. For the body. For attention. They teach nervous systems what to expect. Slowly. Without force. Start with something tiny. Repeat it a few times. Notice the difference in the breath. What small sequence could invite your attention to descend, just enough to breathe?
Try one small experiment. Before you reach for your phone, pause. Breathe 3 times. Listen to the room. For 30 seconds, let sound be the job. No fixing. No plan. Just noting. Or when a worry arrives, name it aloud. There is worry. Wait. See what the body does. Write one line afterward. Not to judge. To gather a fact. These are gentle tests. Low stakes. Curious data for the nervous system. Do this a few times. Notice the pattern. Notice what softens. What might attention tell you if you simply listened? Notice what changed. A throat unclenched. A thought loosened. The room sounds different.
These are small replies. Treat them as information, not failure. Make no big plan. Offer one small, fitting response: drink water. Stand by the window. Write one line that felt like. Then wait. See whether the nervous system accepts the offer. Often it does, slowly. Sometimes it does not. Both are answers. Keep the experiments simple. Let curiosity be light. You are learning a language, your attention's grammar. Stay with a single noticing long enough to hear if it shifts. What would come next if you stayed listening? If you stayed, something would shift again. A small image might arrive. A sound. A tightness behind the eyes. Notice it without doing. Name it: waiting, too much, hungry, softly. Let the body answer with a tiny gesture, uncurl a hand, blink, let the shoulders drop a millimeter. No plan. No fixing. Just a reply. These replies are language. Each one teaches the next move. Sometimes the answer is silence. Sometimes it is a memory that opens like light. Stay with that possibility. See what requests to be tended. Then wait, listen for the next small, honest thing.
When you reply without fixing, something else happens. A tiny shift registers. The system takes note. Attention is not neutral. It learns by consequence. If a glance, a thought, a nibble calms you even a little, your brain files it as useful. Over time, those small ripples become grooves. They steer your eyes, your breath, your minutes. Habits form quietly. Not as moral failures, but as practice directions. So ask, not to judge, but to see where you're being guided. What responses have been rewarded? What quiet habit holds your gaze now? Attention prefers motion and meaning. It leans toward change, toward what promises reward or signals danger. A buzz, a familiar worry, the hint of praise, each one earns a small chemical nod. That nod becomes habit. We glance. We feel a micro relief. The brain files the pattern. Over weeks it carves a channel. Not a moral failing. Just practiced circuitry. So the shift is patient work. Notice what tugs your gaze. Track the tiny payoffs. Imagine different payoffs, a longer breath, a held look, a simple ritual. See which return. See which slowly reroute the path.
Those tiny payoffs live inside a story. Who we think we are becomes a filter. If your self-image leans busy, you notice lists before sunsets. If worth feels conditional, relief comes from checking boxes, not from resting. The inner narrator speaks in a steady, often unseen tone. It rehearses expectations. It nudges attention like a compass. Notice the voice. Name it. Ask it, without urgency, what it thinks will keep you safe or seen. Sometimes the answers are practical. Sometimes tender. Sometimes stubborn. And then, if you listen, new permissions quietly appear. Permissions appear, and another thing shows up. There are older patterns under the narrator. Jung named them archetypes. The shadow is not a villain. It's the parts we pushed into corners. They nudge attention with the quiet fierceness of a knee-jerk. Often agitation is simply energy looking for a shape. Name it. Give it a small role. Let the restless piece take a seat at the table. See what wants tending. This changes how it moves. It loses its stealth. And then you might notice, gently, what pulls at you and why. Once the shadow's movements are visible, you can look for small answers. Viktor Frankl noticed that meaning steadies attention. Not the lofty kind. The near kind. A ritual of making tea. Folding a shirt. Tending a plant. These small acts give the nervous system something reliable to hold. They coax attention back. They let restfulness return, not by force but by invitation. What small thing might answer that quiet tug?
But the tug isn't only personal. The world around us is organized to pull attention. A constant ping. A calendar full of tiny urgencies. Busy work that feels like motion. Screens that trade calm for small rewards. Over time these scaffolds train vigilance. They teach the nervous system to wake for nothing. Not blame. Just design. If rituals anchor from within, what could we adjust outside? Which daily nudge could be loosened, to let the quiet breathe?
Start small. Turn off one notification you habitually check. Close a tab that keeps tugging. Leave your phone in another room for 10 minutes. Make a tiny ritual to mark transitions, a cup set down, a window opened. These are experiments. Watch how the body answers. Notice the spaces that return. Now watch one change. Sit with it for 2 minutes. Notice where your eyes go. Name the urge, checking, planning, replaying, without fixing it. Breathe. Track the body, jaw, breath, chest. This is not practice to win. It's quiet reconnaissance. Small data. Gentle curiosity. See what the room of attention reveals when you stop trying to control it.
Now, gently widen the view. What you noticed is information, not verdict. A checking impulse. A tightening in the throat. A tension favoring beginnings over endings. These are small fingerprints of habit. Let them sit. Name one thread, quietly. Follow it for a breath or two. No fixing. Just data. Slowly these traces sketch a map, a private geography of what your mind prefers. Keep watching. See where that map might soften.
Now slow down and map those movements. A low hum in the chest. Hands that won't settle. Thoughts that leap to what might go wrong. Attention flicking like a moth toward beginnings. These are distinct languages: body, focus, story. Name each quietly. Stay curious. No need to change them. Which voice is speaking right now? Let that question hang. Listen for 3 quiet movements. The body on alert, tight breath, restless hands. Attention that scavenges, eyes flick to screens, mind to tasks. The inner narrator that rehearses, what if only. Each is doing something useful. Not failure. Just habit. Watch them without fixing. Which one now wants a different answer?
First, a low hum in the chest. Then attention skimming details without landing. Then the looped sentence, replaying possibilities. Small movements. Hands move before decisions. Eyes check the door. Thoughts thread like beads. Separate experiences. All are signaling. None are final. Stay with one. See what opens. Notice the body first. A shallow breath. Muscles ready, jaw tight. A small charge behind the eyes. Attention narrows and widens, alert to trivial things and to imagined threats. The mind rehearses scenes, endings, starts, errands. A rhythm of checking phone, door, calendar. Each loop quiets, then returns with a new tone. These are parts, not verdicts. Stay with one sensation. Ask it, softly, what is it asking of me? Listen. The body keeps score, a quickened heart, shallow breath. Attention constricts, urgent details glow. Thoughts loop, solutions rehearsed, futures discounted. Each piece feeds the next. It is a small machine, practiced and precise. Watch it without fixing it. Trace one motion, eye to phone, thought to to-do list. Let curiosity follow, not judgment. See what loosens. Listen for the margin between impulse and response. Attention learns in repetition. Small returns, tiny relief, and answered ping are cunning teachers. Each glance, each quick fix, carves a groove. After enough turns, the path deepens. Habit follows not from willpower but from consequence and ease. So the restless moment is a familiar route, not a moral failure. Notice the next pull. Name it. Stay with that naming a breath or two longer. See where your gaze wants to go.
That pull often has a voice. Soft, insistent. Be useful. Don't fall behind. Those lines become filters. They tint perception, prioritize tasks, File moments as proof. If identity rests undoing, attention turns into evidence gathering. You check, you tidy, you soothe, briefly. The relief promises return. Listen to that narrator. Don't argue. Ask, quietly, what does it need to feel safe? Hold the question. Let it breathe.
That narrator is rarely alone. There is a protector beside it. A small frightened child. An impatient critic. Call them archetypes, or shadows, names that stop them moving like ghosts. Naming shrinks their chase. It makes space. Not to fix. Just to listen. What might the shadow ask for, if you answered, softly? Answering softly could look like this: a patient pause. A small offering. I see you. Not in order to fix. To allow. To name the need: rest, help, certainty, and give it a chair. Tension often loosens. Some questions quiet. Others linger. Stay with them a while. And notice what arrives. There is a low hum under everything. A slight tightening at the ribs. Fingers hover, waiting. Thoughts jump: tasks, favors, small anxieties. Attention splits like light through glass. The body stays ready. Anticipation feels ordinary. It is not drama. It is a system signaling. Pause. Notice where the hum lives and what it might want. Listen to the particulars. A quick breath that never fully releases. Eyes skimming, never settling. The stomach folding into small readiness. Thoughts thread around unfinished tasks like moths circling a dim lamp. Attention, thin and elastic, tugs toward the nearest flicker. Anticipation shapes itself into small rituals: checking, rechecking, planning. These are movements, not failures. Notice their rhythm. Where do they begin, and what would it take for one of them to stop mid-flight?
We can name the parts. A body subtly primed, jaw tight, breath skimmed. Attention bent toward what might go wrong. A looping sentence in the mind, always unfinished. Small actions follow, hands find the phone, lists grow. Notice each movement without needing to change it. Trace the first tug. Where does yours begin?
We can watch how attention learns. It orients toward the small reliefs. A notification, a finish line, the easing of a doubt, each tiny reward guides the next glance. Over time, those glances become a highway. Automatic. Familiar. Not failure. Simply a trained response. So the step is quiet, experiment. Shift your gaze for a breath. Offer a different cue. See what arrives. What does your attention expect if you don't match it? Now listen to the inner narrator. It speaks in roles: the worker, the guardian, the one who must prove worth. Small sentences, constant nudges. It turns attention into evidence gathering. Every glance becomes a check. Not to punish, but to keep the story intact. When identity tightens, calm loosens. So the question shifts: who is doing the looking? Notice that voice. Name it, if you like. Stay curious. See what it wants before you answer. There are quieter currents beneath the inner narrator. Older shapes, trickster, judge, orphan, move in the background. Call them archetypes, or call them parts. They are not blame. They are displaced energy seeking shape. Sometimes that energy becomes restlessness. Naming it narrows its reach. Listen with patience. What would it like to become? Frankl wrote that meaning steadies the heart. Not grand answers. Small, proximate meanings, a kettle's steam, a quiet promise, showing up for one person, give attention a place to rest. They turn displaced energy into shape. Rituals are invitations, not performance. They claim this moment. Let the body notice. And then, what small claim might you answer today? Small meanings steady us. Yet the world around us keeps tuning attention elsewhere. A ping. The unfinished list at the edge of vision. The quiet scroll that eats 5 minutes and leaves a residue. These are not villains. They are scaffolding, design patterns that train arousal toward constant readiness or tiny rewards. Restlessness, then, is partly cultural, partly learned. It asks for small adjustments, not self-reproof. Which scaffold might you loosen first? Loosen a scaffold, and something seeks a shape to hold. Rituals give shape without pressure. A cup warmed in your hands. A short walk with no agenda. A sequence you repeat until the body remembers safety before the mind does. Not rules. Small, lived forms. They steady attention by habit. What quiet sequence might call you home?
Try tiny experiments. Sit with a single breath. Count nothing. Notice how attention slips and returns. Time them like a scientist. 1 minute. 3. Listen to the room as if it were telling you something new. Record observations, not judgments. Make it playful. Fail lightly. Each attempt yields a map. Over time you learn what pulls you, and what, quietly, steadies you.
Now listen for the quieter currents beneath the noticing. Worries often guard and need rest, certainty, permission. Don't argue with them. Invite them to speak. Name the tone, the body's signal. Ask, gently, what do you want me to know? Stay curious. Meet small needs before grand fixes. Integration happens in fragments. Sometimes a soft answer is enough. What might you ask next?
Begin with a tiny experiment. Pause 2 breaths. Notice where the urge lives. Name it: anxious, bored, hungry. Keep the label soft. Try a minute of listening. No fixing. Prepare a cup slowly. Note the difference. No performance. Just data. Small practices tell a story. Which one will you try next? Now, turn toward the tug you found. Not to fix it. To ask it, gently, what do you need? There may be a frightened part. A tired part. A small, persistent voice seeking proof. Listen without urgency. Offer acknowledgement. Even a sentence, "I hear you," changes the pressure. You don't resolve everything. You begin a different kind of conversation. And something softens.
Now, stay with that softened tug. Notice its shape. A worry, yes. Also a request. Not for solutions, for presence. Ask one simple question: what would make you feel seen? Wait. No hurry. The answer may be small: a cup of rest, a task clarified, someone told. Offer that small thing, or a promise you can keep. Watch how the energy shifts. And stay curious: what wants to happen next? If you follow that small offer, a cup, a promise, notice how attention bends. It learns by repetition. Where the mind is rewarded, it returns. Repeated looking makes a groove. Soft vigilance becomes habit. This is not weakness. It's a brain learning its routes. So begin as an observer. Track the simple repeats. See the patterns. Hold them without judgment. Which trail will you choose next? Attention is greedy for payoff. It turns small comforts and alarms into automatic routes. A notification, a thought of task, each one carries a tiny reward, and the pathway deepens. Brain wiring follows use. So the work is quiet, notice the payoff. Name it. Sit in the brief pause before returning. What small reward keeps pulling you back?
Listen to the quiet voice that claims credit for motion. It names you productive, careful, on edge. When attention wanders, it reads that wander as risk to the self. Small nudges become quick assurances. Checking a message says, I'm still me. Doing something says, I'm enough. The pull is less about the task and more about identity seeking proof. Hold that voice with curiosity. The loops soften. What story is it trying to keep alive? There are older characters backstage of that voice. Archetypes, caregiver, scout, judge, move like weather under the script. The shadow keeps what we won't claim. It nudges attention with displaced energy. Naming them is not labeling. It simply lights a lantern in the cellar. Once seen, they lose some stealth. What happens when you listen to the shape beneath the urge?
When you lean toward that shape, you hear a rhythm. A small voice asks for safety, or play, or recognition. It names a need in plain tones. Listening does not fix everything, but it changes the charge. The shadow becomes companion, not saboteur. And sometimes, in that quiet, you discover a way back to your hands, to the cup, to a breath that lasts. What might it ask next? Instead of tactics, imagine a stance. A soft attention that checks in, not to fix, but to know. You learn the rhythms of unease. You answer with curiosity. Small gestures, naming a feeling, breathing twice, returning your hands, become experiments in companionship. The goal is not absence of doubt. It is a steadier presence. A relationship with uncertainty that changes how you move. What would it be like to stay with that question? Now, turn toward the parts that keep interrupting. Not to banish them. To listen. A persistent worry is a messenger with a request. Sometimes it seeks safety, at other times, a small recognition. Name it. Ask what it wants, quietly. The answer is rarely grand. Often it's a next small tending. Let it sit beside you. See what softening does, no promises, only information. What does it feel like when you answer?
Listen longer. Not to silence the thought, but to meet it. Ask, what does this part need? A small kindness, a boundary, time to finish? Offer a modest reply, 15 quiet minutes, a note, a walk. See how the body shifts when need is seen. Often energy thins. You don't solve the story. You change the relationship. Let the restlessness be wiser by acquaintance. Stay curious. Let the work be less strategy and more keeping company. Not fixing uncertainty, but learning its rhythms. Meet the edge with questions, not verdicts. Practice small gestures, a steady breath, a noted observation, an offered allowance of not knowing. Over time, the nervous system learns a companion, not a threat. The urge to hustle softens. There is room. Stay with the curiosity a little longer.
Begin with tiny, repeated forms. A cup left to cool. A hand that closes the laptop at dusk. A breath held long enough to be noticed. Not instructions. Small invitations. Repetition quietly reshapes the nervous system. It trades alarm for predictability. Over months, these gestures become landmarks. They do not solve uncertainty. They rearrange how you meet it. See what softens next. We begin with one modest experiment. For 60 seconds, listen, clock, breath, a distant car. Notice how attention arrives and leaves. Name one thought aloud, softly. No fixing. Just noting. Scan the body, where the chest tightens, where it lets go. These are data. They show what wants tending. Practice becomes curiosity, not control. Over time, small observations reroute habit. See what happens next.
Now, keep that gentle noticing. When the thought returns, don't chase it. Name its tone, urgent, sleepy, practical. Feel where the body takes the cue. These brief maps are useful. Over days they reveal a pattern. What nudges you? What settles you? No fixing. Track one repeated tug this week. Then watch what shifts when you simply look.
Good. Now widen the lens. Attention is plastic. It learns by repetition. Each glance, each click, reinforces a pathway. small choices become grooves. So experiment gently. Take 30 seconds before a reply. Notice what tugs. Name it silently. No correction. Just data. Over time, the grooves shift. You don't will them away. You redirect them softly. See what happens when you let curiosity, rather than alarm, lead the next pause. What does that change later today? Notice who notices. There is a quiet narrator that names moments productive, safe, enough. It nudges attention, not kindly, but insistently. A cup of tea can read as failure. Silence can feel like debt. When identity tightens, attention patrols for proof. So listening becomes part of the practice. Noticing the voice. Asking, softly, what it wants. Sometimes no answer comes. Sometimes a small, unexpected relief. What if you stayed with that?
Call it shadow, if that helps. A quieter shape under the narrator. Old urgencies. Displaced desires. Not demons. Not faults. Parts of you trying to be seen. Naming them slows their motion. You don't have to fix anything now. You can watch. Stay curious. Ask, gently, what wants to move through me now? Listen to its tone. Notice where the feeling sits, throat, chest, the edges of your attention. It is not orders. It is a signal. Let curiosity soften the response. Breathe toward it. Name one small thing it asks for: safety, space, a story told differently. Then wait. See what shifts, without needing to decide.
Stay with that soft curiosity. Notice where your mind returns. It picks the easiest route. Repetition lays a groove. Each glance at anxiety, each checklist tick, small reward. Over time, attention learns a habit. Not failure. Learned choreography. If you watch without acting, the pattern becomes visible. And once visible, it can be invited to try another path. What small detour might it accept? Attention is a learner. It follows signals that promise something: safety, surprise, ease. A glance that soothes. A small mark that snaps tension into order. Each return trims the path. Neurons whisper, again. Over weeks, the mind settles into those routes. Not by will, by simple reinforcement. So the work is gentle, notice where attention lands and what it gets back. What small, kinder signal might it begin to expect? Something else is listening too. A quiet narrator claiming who we are nudges attention toward proof. Productive, it says, and the gaze patrols to tasks. Safe, and the ear tenses for threats. These self-statements are not facts. They are requests for evidence. So restlessness often isn't random. It's a persistent question from the story inside us, asking to be seen. What would happen if we answered that voice with curiosity instead of haste?
Try meeting it with curiosity. Pause. Notice where the body tightens. Name the small request: proof, control, rest. Ask, quietly, without haste, what do you need right now? Watch for sensations before stories. Answers can be ordinary. A glass of water. A 5-minute task. A boundary. Or nothing at all. Stay with the not knowing. See what shifts. Offer a small answer. A glass. A pause. A boundary. If nothing shifts, don't force it. Let attention be a lantern, not a hammer. Watch the shape of tension. Name it, then soften beside it. Some knots unwind. Some hold their place. Stay present. Notice, without urgings, what wants to change next. The body keeps score in small ways. A shallow breath. Fingers hover over a cup. Attention flicks to a task you half remember. A low hum of vigilance. Thoughts circle like stray radio signals, urgent, then gone. Some parts wait. Others scan for solutions. Map where the pulse tightens, where the gaze slips, and wonder what each wants.
there are 3 small movements inside it. The body, a steady, low rush, breath shallow, muscles perched. Attention, it leans toward gaps, unfinished tasks, the soft edges of the day. Thoughts, they circle probable threats, rehearsed fixes, errands that never close. None of it is dramatic. It is quietly insistent. Listen, then ask, what is each part asking for?
Attention learns. It takes the path of least surprise. If noticing a Slack email once brought relief, we notice Slack emails more. Tiny rewards, completion, avoidance, certainty, teach the brain where to look. Over time, the gaze tightens into habit. Not a moral failing. A consequence. The task becomes gentle observation. Watch where attention lands. Note the small payoffs. Then, without drama, offer another prompt. See what shifts. What might it look for next?
There's a voice that narrates us. It names who we are: productive, safe, enough. When that voice leans toward behind, attention scans for proof. When it fears not enough, attention gathers small threats like pins on a board. This isn't judgment. It's a demand for reassurance, for control. Notice how the body tightens when identity asks for evidence. Breathe. Ask the voice a different question. Not to silence it, but to learn what it actually wants. What might the answer be?
Call them archetypes, or simply parts. Names that make unseen motives less secret. One voice pulls toward duty. Another hoards attention like a lantern. The shadow holds displaced energy, anger, care, hunger waiting for a shape. When we name it, it slows. We stop fighting a ghost. So ask gently, which part is moving now? Listen. Not to fix it, but to let it speak.
When a part speaks, it wants meaning, not solutions, but a place to land. Frankl taught that attention steadies around what matters. Small, immediate meanings do the heavy lifting: a cup held with care, a promise kept, a ritual remembered. These are anchors. Notice now, what small thing might this unrest be asking for? Outside, the world arranges our attention. Notifications puncture silence. Feeds sustain a low, steady alarm. Busy work fills spaces once quiet. These structures train vigilance, not weakness. They nudge the mind toward urgency. Notice which scaffolds amplify your unrest. What would soften if one small pattern shifted?
Inside, something learned to stay alert. A tightening behind the ribs. Thoughts skitter to tasks. This is not failure. It's a habit answering a cue. You can watch it, not fix it. Simply notice how it calms when you let a small ritual begin. Ritual is a quiet signal. The kettle's hiss. Fingers tracing a cup. Each tiny pattern redirects the nervous system. Not by force, but by invitation. You practice orientation. The mind accepts the cue and eases. Over time, attention learns to arrive more readily. And then, sometimes, silence opens, not as absence, but as a question. Try small experiments. 2 slow breaths before you answer. 5 steps without your phone. Listen without doing. Keep it playful. Gather quiet data about how attention moves. No judgment. Just noticing. What does your attention show if you wait and watch? Notice the worry that shows up. Name it gently. Ask, what yearns beneath this tug? Not to fix, just to listen. Parts of you are carrying unpaid errands, old safety checks. Meet them with curious patience. See what softens and what keeps its shape.
Sometimes these parts feel older than you. Call them shadow, silent figures carrying ancient roles, the vigilant guardian, the taskmaster, the lonely seeker. Naming them softens secrecy. It doesn't fix everything. It lets you notice the shape of the pull. What might answer if you listen longer? Sit with one of them. Not to argue. Listen for its request, soft, urgent, ordinary. It may ask for a plan, a break, or simply acknowledgement. You don't have to answer immediately. Stay present. See what shifts. Notice how curiosity changes the pull, ever so slightly.
Let the part speak. Hear its tone. Notice where the feeling sits in the body. Soft heat behind the sternum. A quick clench in the jaw. Ask one small, neutral question. No fixing. Just name it. Pause. See what answers arrive. What would happen if you waited? Notice what comes. A small image. A name. Or only quiet. Attend to tone more than story. Breathe. If judgment shows up, greet it like a neighbor and let it pass. Remain curious about the rhythm of attention. Watch where it lingers and where it drifts. Now name the sensations. A shallow tightness behind the ribs. The mind flicking like a loose wire. Tasks arriving as ghosts. Attention thinned. Body ready but not moving. Call it anticipation, low vigilance, or habit. Stay with one detail and see where it opens.
Attention learns. It follows patterns of reward and relief. A passing worry that distracted you once becomes a practiced route. Repetition deepens the track until the mind travels it automatically. Not failure, but habit. If you watch the cue, just watch. What shifts in the quiet that follows?
Our inner narrator names who we are. It nudges attention toward what proves that story, tasks, checks, small victories. Restlessness often answers that nudge, a demand for proof. Listen to its cadence. Who is it trying to convince you of? Hold the question without rushing to answer. There are older shapes beneath that narrator. Archetypes, quiet characters we inherit. The shadow holds displaced wants and unspent heat. Naming them is not a diagnosis. It is a small light. See the shape. Let its energy land. What happens next, if you listen?
Meaning often lives in small, repeatable acts. A morning cup poured the same way. A promise kept to yourself. Rituals give the nervous system a map. They tell attention where to rest. Not grand answers. Tiny anchors. Notice one. Follow it for a morning. See where the day loosens. Try that morning cup again tomorrow. Notice how long it holds. Notice, too, what creeps in: a banner, a chime, a thought about what you should be doing. The world designs attention. Not you. Small rituals meet a bigger system. Where does your attention drift when nothing seems wrong?
You feel a low hum behind the eyes. A small tightening in the chest. Your gaze drifts to a screen, to a list. Thoughts return like loose threads. 3 simple movements: bodily arousal, attention pulled by promise or danger, and the inner voice that narrates it. Notice which comes first. Which one asks to be answered? Attention is a muscle and a map. It favors what rewards it, even mildly. A glance becomes a groove. Each tiny relief, checking, fixing, knowing, reinforces the route. Over time, the mind chooses the familiar road, not because it's right, but because it's known. Watch the pattern. See where it leads next.
And then there is the voice that names you. I'm the busy one. I'm careful. It cues attention. Identity points the spotlight. Small habits become character. The mind seeks proof. You notice, or you don't. What story is steering your glance now? Listen. The story asks for proof. A checked box. A tidy desk. A quick update. You give it what feels like evidence, and it softens, briefly. Then it asks again. Who is rewarded by this motion? Stay with that question. Often it is a small, steady part of you that mistakes motion for safety. It prefers evidence. It learns to nudge attention toward proof. Stillness feels risky. So you busy yourself, twice as quiet as the fear beneath. Notice that tilt. Watch the habit without fixing it. What happens if you don't answer? If you don't answer, the nudge keeps talking. It thins. A small curiosity arrives. You feel the breath. Tiny relief settles. Not dramatic. Slow. The mind makes room for itself. Sometimes a memory surfaces. Sometimes only silence. See which comes. Stay with it. Notice what lingers. Name it softly: anticipation, itch, a hollow readiness. No urgency. Let each sensation arrive and settle. Some ask for action. Some only want to be seen. Breathe. Wait. See which one softens when you look.
Feel the map inside. A low thrum in the chest. Muscles ready though nothing urgent. Attention jumps to small threats, an unread message, a future task. Thoughts circle, polite and relentless. Some parts scan. Others narrate. No verdict. Just patterns. Where does your attention keep returning, and why?
Notice the parts. A shallow inhale. The chest holds readiness, the skin hums. Thoughts tethered to possible losses or tasks. Attention fragments, small alarms sounding without real danger. It's not failure. It's a system reacting. Observe one thread. Where does it lead? Follow it. A slight tightening in the jaw. The gaze slides to an undone email. Breath shallows. A thought rehearses a problem already solved. These are separate currents: arousal, attention bias, looping narrative. They feed one another quietly. Trace one as softly until you see where it turns. Notice the subtle cues. Ask, without urgency, what started the loop. When you follow it, a pattern appears. Quick checks are rewarded. Attention learns the path and keeps returning. Habits form like soft grooves. Watch one small choice and you can see the map. Pause before the pull. Notice what wants to be fed and why. Attention is a muscle and a highway. Each glance carves a route. Small rewards patch the road. Over time, the brain expects the turn. So step back. Watch where gaze habitually lands. Ask, gently, who is steering this habit and what would happen if I didn't follow? The mind replies. A quiet narrator keeps score. It wears labels productive, careful, competent, and trains the eyes to collect proof. Those small verdicts tug attention like strings. Notice the voice. Name its claim. What reassurance does it seek now? It bargains with you. A quiet ledger, attention for certainty. Tiny rituals follow checking, rehearsing, arranging. They feel useful. They are also a diversion. You settle briefly. Then the narrator asks again. More proof. The loop holds like gravity. If you watch it without answering, something here thins. Something asks what it truly needs. You begin to notice who is asking. A smaller voice, efficient, anxious, tidy. It treats calm like a debt. It equates attention with worth. Naming it softens the demand. You can answer differently. Or stay quiet and listen. What would it say if you gave it room? It might be protecting you. Or collecting proof. It remembers praise. Let it speak without interrupting. Ask one quiet question. What are you afraid will happen if you rest? Wait. Listen. You may not get an answer. Or you may hear, at last, a small, honest request.
It may ask for proof you'll come back. A list. A promise. Or simply a minute of trust. Offer no sermon. Offer a small experiment. Say yes. Sit. Breathe. Wait. See what shifts. Don't rush to change anything. Your hands might still reach for the phone. A thought will surface, an errand, a doubt. Name it quietly. No solving. Attend to the small sensations, tight jaw, hollow breath, a soft fizz behind the eyes. Wait with them. Notice how a little silence alters what comes next.
There's a low hum under the ribs. Anticipation sits like a small stone at the throat. Attention flickers to chores, to what might go wrong and away. Thoughts loop along familiar routes. The body keeps a soft vigilance. Watch one motion. Don't fix it. Stay curious. See where that quiet pull takes you. The body keeps a ledger, pulse a touch higher, jaw slightly clenched. Attention triangulates small threats, probable, imagined. Thought habits rehearse familiar routes. It's an economy of preparation, not hysteria. Observe each part without fixing it. Ask, quietly, what else wants to be seen? Attention prefers familiar routes. It repeats soft, automatic, because repetition rewarded it. Not a flaw, a skill turned sticky. Stay with the pattern. Track one small impulse. See where it leads. Listen to the voice that names the impulse. It frames you, productive, safe, enough. Those labels steer attention, as if proof is required. Stay with that voice. What does it want now?
Notice how that voice drafts scenes, unfinished tasks, imagined judgments. It seeks reassurance. Name it. Breathe. What changes if you watch, without answering? Let the scenes unfold like clouds. Your chest softens. No need to tidy them. Stay present to the edges of the feeling. Curiosity, not correction. See what lingers.
A faint tightness remains. Fingers hover. Thoughts drift to small obligations, an almost habit. Notice the body's quiet alerts. No need to fix them. Listen. They carry a message, or only noise. Stay with it a moment longer. Breath shallow. Thought schemes tasks like loose paper. Muscles stay ready. A low, patient anticipation hums under calm. Attention fragments into small urgencies. Nothing pressing, yet the body prepares. Hold that. What, quietly, is it waiting for?
A nervous system on standby. Breath shallow. Muscles ready. Thoughts slip toward small urgencies, an email, tomorrow's meeting, an old remark. Attention prefers edges. Tiny signals keep the mind lit. Stillness hovers, never fully landing. Notice how the body hums a quiet alarm. Muscles hold a question. Attention flutters to edges, lists, losses, small responsibilities. Thoughts circle like moths. None urgent. Many necessary. Why do they return? Under that hum live small signals, tightened breath, a ready glance, a loop of tiny what-ifs. Attention prefers motion. It trades stillness for something to do. So the quiet gathers reasons to be unsettled. Those signals are not errors. They are gestures, muscles waiting, the mind scanning, story tendrils reaching for proof. Notice them. Ask, quietly, what are you looking for?
They answer in sensations, a tight throat, a small widening in the chest, the mind rehearsing. Name each one. Sit with them. See where attention tilts. Then, listen for the soft urge behind the noise. That soft urge is rarely a demand. It is a request, reassurance, meaning, or an old habit looking for form. Sit with it. Name it without solving. Breathe. Wait. See what shifts when you simply let the question stay. You may feel a small tightening. A familiar thought circles. Don't fix it. Observe its shape. Let curiosity be gentle. Often rest arrives through patient attention, not through solving, and sometimes the rest is only partial. Notice the tightening without fixing it. Breathe into the place it occupies. Small shifts follow. Leave the rest as a question. Listen to how stillness gathers, slowly.
A body hums small warnings. Hands tremble without danger. Attention flickers to unfinished lists. Heart rate slightly higher. These are signals, not failures. Watch them quietly. What wants tending here? Let the question linger. A low buzz under the skin. readiness that wants to act. Thoughts skitter like small animals. Muscles hold quiet tension. Not urgent, just present. Watch without fixing. Let it be named, if only for a moment. Notice its parts. A held breath. A quickened pulse. Attention leaping to small threats. Thought loops folding around tasks. None of it personal. What wants you now?
Attention learns by repetition. Small urgencies train it to flicker. Gradually the mind reaches for familiar signals without asking. Notice that habit. What would gently interrupt it? A small, steady voice then speaks, who you think you are. Responsible, efficient, not enough. Those labels tug attention like a familiar tune. Listen. What does that voice ask for? And what remains unspoken? It asks for proof. For predictability. For a border against chaos. Often it never names loneliness. Sometimes it wants a small ritual, a breath promise. So the mind keeps checking. It returns like a soft tide, fingertips tracing obligations. Small comforts appear as evidence. They never quite settle the sea. We learn to listen, not fix. What would gentleness sound like?
A shallow inhale. Attention flicks to tomorrow. A low hum of readiness in the chest. Not a fault, but a message. Stay with it, watch where the mind drifts next.
Notice the body's small alarms. A taut throat. Fingers restless. Thoughts flick like a tired radio between channels. Low-grade readiness, not crisis. Something seeks confirmation. Stay with that seeking. See where it settles. A readiness with textures. A humming chest. Attention skimming the to-do list. Thought offers small what-ifs. Urges to check, adjust, move. Not panic, pattern. Follow one impulse gently. See what it wants. Stay curious. What does it ask? Lean toward that impulse. Name it quietly. Is it hunger for control, or a rehearsal of future trouble? Breathe. Let the urge register without obedience. Stay with the small noise. Wait and watch. Something softer might reply. The chest tightens. Fingers hover. Thoughts flick to errands that don't exist. It's a low hum of vigilance, not panic. Old habits reaching for meaning in silence. Stay with it. What wants to be seen now?
Feel the body ready, not threatened. Attention keeps pinging, this cup, that task. Breath short. A quiet checklist runs, promising relief if acted on. It's seeking contact. Name one small need. Then wait. Observe without fixing.
Now notice the urge to soothe it. You might reach, plan, or ruminate. Let the impulse sit beside you. No verdict. Listen for what it asks, if anything, and stay with that small question a moment longer. If nothing answers, let silence be enough. Breathe. Notice a small steadiness beneath the urge, a pulse, a softened jaw, the quiet rhythm of in and out. Stay curious. See what, slowly, shifts.
Let the urge arrive without command. Notice its shape, small plans, restless friction. No action required. Keep returning to the breath. Watch the room rearrange itself around a quieter center. Now sense the edges of attention widening. Muscles soften. Thoughts lose urgency. Not resolving. Just noticing. A small, patient curiosity opens what wants to be seen next. Notice the small signals, a twitch, a returning thought, a hollow behind the ribs. They speak softly. Not commands. Invitations. Hold one lightly. See what opens. Stay curious. What wants to be seen? Listen to the pattern, chest tightens, eyes dart to screens, mind rehearses tomorrow's sentences. A small alarm, not a verdict. Anticipation, low vigilance, looping thoughts. Notice the texture. Name it. Stay with the pause. Now map it softly. Body tenses, breath shortens, attention narrows to possibility. Thoughts circle like a quiet tide. Each loop holds a purpose. What, exactly, are we protecting? Often it's a story. A quiet claim, I must be useful, or I must be ready. That voice directs the eye of attention. Listen. What phrase keeps returning?
It learns your shape. A few words become the map you follow. They pull attention toward errands, rehearsals, safety. Notice which corner of you brightens. Which voice asks for proof? And then the map writes you. You start to believe the proof. Habits braid into identity. A minor worry sounds like a verdict. Listen. Which part of you is only doing its job, and which wants to speak? Names arise. The inner narrator collects proofs, fears, duties, small triumphs. Notice its tone. Is it pleading, protecting, or rehearsing? Breathe. Let that voice finish. Wait. See what wants to be heard.
Beyond the narrator, another presence stirs, older, quieter. Not an enemy. A shadow, an unlabeled urge. It nudges attention like a tide. What would it ask if we simply listened? It might ask for acknowledgement. Not a fix. A place to breathe. A name. To be held. Listen without answering. Let the urge sit at the edge of awareness. See what settles. Then, perhaps, respond softly. Notice the tug. Name it quietly. Breathe into where it lives. Wait without solving. See what softens or what insists, then follow only as curiosity, not command. Listen to the body, a held breath. Fingers restless. Thoughts like loose threads tugging at a sleeve. Not panic. Low, patient vigilance. Name each texture. Stay with them. See which demands an answer and which only wants to be seen. Underneath the hush, three currents move. A ready body. Attention that leans toward threats. A mind rehearsing responses. They are simple, practiced patterns, not failures. Watch how they weave. See where they begin and where they might end. Over time, attention carves grooves. Small returns deepen them. Each replay rewards familiarity, not truth. Habits feel inevitable. Notice the groove. Let curiosity rest there for a moment. In that pause, an inner narrator wakes. It names duty, worth, and danger. Its voice insists. Listen without arguing. Ask, quietly, what does it want from you really? Sometimes it wants safety. Sometimes a promise. Often, simply attention. Sit with that wanting. Breathe. Let the request speak without fixing it. Notice how even wanting can be a kind of weather. Often it asks for recognition, a quiet nod, not an answer. A small acknowledgement can lower its pitch. Stay with that. Let the weather move where it will. Notice the body's edges. Breathe. No fixing. Curiosity as a soft lamp, warm, unhurried. What wants to be seen now? Hold the question lightly. Wait. Something replies, in its own time. Listen. A low hum beneath the ribs. Attention narrows, not to solve, but to notice. Let its shape be strange. Stay with the outline. See what softens. A tightening at the throat. Fingers jitter. Thoughts skitter to errands, to imagined failures. The body keeps a ledger. Watch each entry without erasing it. What wants to be counted?
The body records readiness. Breath shallow. Attention flickers to edges, doors, deadlines, imagined slippages. Small ripples demand answers. And we keep replying, quietly, without knowing why. It becomes a practiced habit. We patrol silence. Tiny alarms hum like background music. The body anticipates before thought catches up. And then, we wonder what else is listening.
We learn to listen for threats. Those echoes shaped where attention lingered. Quiet then felt unnatural. A soft, patient curiosity arrives now, asking who built the watchtower and why it keeps signaling. We trace the ladder back. First rungs, routines, voices, small urgencies. They stacked, unnoticed. Sometimes the signal is loyalty to an old role. Sometimes it's fear in plain clothes. We don't have to tear it down. We can learn its language.